And we are live. Welcome back to another episode here on the Esports Economics Podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Clark. And today I have with me my good friend, Zach Lange. Zach, what is going on?
How's it going, man? Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to hop on here and have a quick chat and have some fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. For those of you that don't know that are watching, Zach is part of the social media team over at Sentinels. And with a small team like we're talking about off air, a team of 10 people in the entire marketing department, you guys are doing some really cool stuff on Twitter, on TikTok. So I'm really excited to dive into it. And if you're watching or listening and you're interested in esports social media, leveling up your own content or your org's content, you're definitely going to want to listen all the way till the end. But for anyone who doesn't know you, Zach, give the audience a bit of a background, how you got into social media and esports.
Appreciate it, Tommy. Yeah, so my background traditionally is actually in journalism, which is very weird to be on the other side of being interviewed because I'm typically the one that traditionally has always been the interviewer.
Yeah.
So now I'm the interviewee. So how the roles have changed here. But I went throughout my entire high school and college experience with a 95% likelihood that I was going to be a sports writer. I was super passionate. Okay. I'm super passionate about traditional sports, as well as esports. And I grew up with a love of like anything and all things ESPN, right? So literally anything from, baseball to the X Games, like I'm covering it, I'm watching it, I'm like loving it. And so I thought I was going to be a traditional sports writer. And I actually, my junior year of college, I was junior into senior year of college, I guess I should say. I was a entry-level employee at the one of the major newspapers here in the state of Florida. And I had offers to start at small newspapers. But being in a newsroom, I quickly realized how unfortunate, for lack of a better word, is the state of journalism right now. I mean, I've seen people be so unfairly treated, and I didn't want to put myself in that circumstance. So I actually I pivoted my senior year of college. I thought I was going to have this career, and I pivoted to working in collegiate athletics as a sports information graduate assistant. So I actually picked up all my stuff. I went to school here in Orlando, Florida, where I live now. And I picked up all my stuff and I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and worked as a grad assistant for a year at a smaller school. And then that led me full-time to Sentinels because in the background, while I was doing all of my traditional journalism, while I was doing my student work, while I was working part-time jobs to just, get some food money, while I was doing all that, I was working in esports as a part-time employee. I started as a volunteer with Echo Fox back in 2017 as a volunteer writer, which fit my skill set, and I was just writing like blog posts for their website, just starting off really simple. And that spurred into a part-time opportunity with E United, where I was with E United for almost 3 years, 2.5 years. And they were E United just treated me so fantastic. Like I had so many opportunities because of them that I otherwise wouldn't have had in this industry. And it was the perfect, I'm very, very blessed because that was like the perfect role to like introduce me into esports as a career. I was writing press releases. I was doing on-site social media management and like updates for our IG story and for our Twitter account at certain points that, it was really that nice introductory role into what would become my full-time career. My full-time career at Sentinel started. So being a graduate assistant, I'll take you back to my traditional sports route. Man, what a thankless task. If you are a graduate assistant out there that's listening to this, or you're thinking about becoming a GA, do it because I'm assuming a lot of this audience is probably high school to college aged. Be a GA, be a graduate assistant, because it will teach you what a work ethic is. And what a thankless task it was.
Yeah.
So I preface that by saying I was sitting in my tiny apartment in Knoxville, Tennessee, 700 miles away from all of my friends and family. And I had a bad day at work. Like I had a bad day. Like it was not good. And I went on Hitmarker jobs and I saw Sentinel social media manager. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write these people the best cover letter they've ever seen. Like I'm going to I'm going to knock their socks off. Like I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit down. I sat down that night, wrote a cover letter that I felt really confident about, and a month later after the interview process, I was the one that got the position. And it'll actually be my 1-year anniversary at Sentinels next week. So I've been here for almost a year now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's crazy. Like I keep on thinking about like it's crazy how everything can change in a year, and that's kind of where we're at. Like it's crazy how much a year can change your life, and so I'm very blessed to be where I'm at, and that's pretty much my start and how I got to where I'm at now.
That's awesome, man. And now I know this is a pretty played out question, but do you have any general advice or tips for anyone looking to get into esports? I know like literally everyone gets asked this, and it's generally like network and build connections. Were there any like hidden gems you picked up throughout the way, or like do's or don'ts that you would recommend that people really pay attention to?
Start small. Start at a place where you are one of 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 of your buddies even, that are just you, and you have a vision and you want to accomplish something. And, you know, a lot of people, I think, get turned off by the idea of starting small because it typically means, you know, being an intern that's unpaid, which is unjust, and I hate it. But I had to go through it, and I wouldn't want anybody else to go through that. But what I do think is if you start small and work while the stakes are low for a long period of time, like, you know, all throughout high school and all throughout college, I was writing blog posts about whatever interests me. You know, like I worked for, I guess you could say worked for Fansided, which is like a fan-led sports blog, and I was writing about the NFL. Like no person with any, you know, Adam Schefter from ESPN is not reading these like little blog posts that I have to say, right? But like it gave me the repetition, it gave me the reps, and it gave me you know, a simulation of what to expect later down the road. And so that would be one of the main things I would suggest to people looking to get into esports is just start small and start with something where the stakes are low, to where if you mess up, it's okay because 5 people are watching. You know, like it's you know, it's okay. Like don't worry about messing up because you're not going to get chewed out over it at the end of the day. What you are going to get is you should feel really good about yourself because you're hustling and you're doing something that makes you proud, something that you look back on and you're like, damn, I'm at where I'm at 5 years down the road because of all of the repetition that I did before. So just start small and, you know, keep a positive outlook on things, and just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, that's huge. I love the advice because I feel like, especially in esports, you see a lot of people that are really young get really, really far ahead and build massive platforms and get what might be your dream job. And you're like, why am I like 19, 20 years old? I'm not there yet. I feel like I should be there. You end up in this cycle of perfectionism, which just kind of kills you. So I love that you gave that advice. And I think it's super important and relevant. Now, kind of shifting gears into what you're doing currently with the Sentinels. Actually, real quick, before we hop into that, one thing I do want to ask you about is your path with like traditional education. Like you just, I think, finished up your MBA, which first of all, congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
What value do you think that going that route and completing the traditional education beyond just even a bachelor's degree has added to your overall professional career so far?
if it coming from me, I think if you want to get into social media, you should be a journalism major. But I am biased as all hell.
Yeah.
Because
That
I
does
have
make
a
sense, though.
journalism degree. Now, being a social media manager on game days, like when you have to write something, you have to come up with a compelling piece of copy that fans in an audience are going to engage with, they're going to read, and they're going to digest, and they're going to absorb what you're saying, right? Think about what a journalist does when they're writing a story that's breaking news. They're writing something that's quick, that's happening in the moment, that people, readers, have to digest and absorb. My sports writing background, if I didn't have it, I don't think I could do this job. Like straight up. I don't think I could be able to do this job the way I do. Maybe if I had a different degree or a different backstory, maybe I would be in the same place that I'm at. It's hard to say, but I think if you're going to go into the world of social media itself, where you are writing copy on a daily basis, if you do not have a journalism or a public relations degree where you are writing in a collegiate background, if you are not going and getting sources and getting information, because that stuff is all part of the process of social media copy. Like when I sit down and I'm watching a Valorant match unfold before my eyes, I'm having to digest what is relevant to the audience. I'm having to digest what is going to be relevant in this match, even what is relevant in this match, and how does it relate to an audience. And so those are all kind of things that 4 years of journalism studies kind of trained me for, to where once I got into my rhythm here at Sentinels, and it didn't happen overnight. It took me, it really took me the first like 4 or 5 months to really feel confident, to where I sent a post with like no anxiety in me. And now that I'm a year into this process, and I reflect back on year one, like just the growth I made as a person in feeling comfortable about what I was saying is huge for me. And I'm, that process does not happen overnight. And that process is definitely one that I feel like my background helped me with. In terms of overall esports work, I think, is college the answer? If you're going to go into maybe talent scouting, or if you're going into player management, or at all of these other career paths that are, popping up throughout the esports ecosystem, I guess my answer would be it depends. It depends on what you're looking to get out of esports, and it depends on how fulfilling you want your experience to be. I think if you are looking at esports as something of a fun side project to what your career is, then education levels can vary. I do feel that if you're going to make this a career path, you should have some form of post-secondary education. And really the main reason for that is I feel like college teaches you about whatever your major is, but realistically, college teaches you how to solve life problems and how to go about approaching things in a certain manner. And that's really important when it comes to your day-to-day workflow in any career. And so I feel like that experience really helped me out, going through 4 years of college, and led me to where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Now, kind of shifting into where you are at right now, what does that day-to-day look like? Like, what does a typical day in Zach Lange's life look like as part of the social media team for Sentinels?
So my day is a little wonky because all of my coworkers are on the West Coast, and I am one of two that are on the East Coast. So I'm working on West Coast time, but I'm in East Coast time zone. I love it. It fits my lifestyle very well because I'm kind of a night owl anyway. So it works out for me. So I'm able to sleep in on my time zone, but our days typically start at about 10:30 PST. And I love this
Okay.
about our team, and I'm so glad that I walked into this situation. We have what is called a scrum every morning. And that is literally straight out of journalism 101, because in traditional journalism, literally you have every writer or every TV news anchor and reporter literally around a conference table, and you talk about what you're doing that day every day at the same time without fail. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas Day, it doesn't matter if it's Sunday, like everybody that is working that day has a traditional journalism scrum. And so we have that here at Sentinels. And so it was really easy to make that transition into that because I'm so used to it, to where every day at the same time, we go over objectives, what we're doing on a daily basis, kind of the micro day to day. And then also we do tend to talk about the macro level things in our scrum as well. Just kind of, hey, what's 3 days down the line? What's 5 days down the line look like? Hey, we have a big tournament coming up. Here are some assets that I'm going to be requesting. Just want to let you know. And so, that meeting typically kicks off our mornings at 10:30 PST. From there, I'm doing a variety of things. I'm looking for TikTok clips to send over to our video editor, or for me to do myself some days. I'm looking for relevant conversations. What is happening in our world? What's happening in our little enclosed dome here at Sentinel's Twitter, right? Like, what is happening that I can talk about, that I can make an impact on? What's happening in the world of Instagram? How can I what content do we have scheduled out? And then if we don't have any content scheduled out for that day, how can I be creative and fill those gaps? That's a lot of social media on a day-to-day basis, just filling gaps that you see with relevant content that you know that your audience is going to engage with, that they're going to appreciate. Maybe they'll have a laugh, or they'll send it a like, or give it a comment, whatever it may be. Just making an impact with your content on a day-to-day basis and kind of filling in those holes that you see. Our YouTube platform, I'm really really proud of. We upload about 2 to 4 times a week, which it isn't maybe exactly what some of the other teams are doing.
That's a pretty impressive cadence.
Yeah, I mean, being able to, we were doing Tuesday and Friday, and then as our Valorant team began to really take off, we were doing highlight videos the day after tournaments now. So literally, like, our tournament wraps up on a Sunday night. We have a video editor that's presenting a 20-minute highlight reel like Monday morning. And like fans really appreciate having kind of like, it's very similar to what, and I hate to draw traditional sports parallels because I'm not sure if everybody in the audience knows, but NFL Films does a really good job of, after each football game, for the people that don't want to sit there on the couch for 3.5 hours with their, beer and buffalo wings, they can go on NFL Films and they can watch a 30-minute condensed. It's just the play after that, no commercials, no filler. And so that's kind of what we have done here with our Valorant team specifically, is just giving people the straight up best highlights of the entire weekend, no filler content. And people have really appreciated that and really liked that. So I'm proud of our YouTube platform for what we've grown on that side of things. And then really at the end of the day, I like to take at least half an hour to just kind of look at the micro and macro level of what we're doing. So, at the end of the day, I'm constantly thinking about, like, okay, what's coming up tomorrow? Okay, what's coming up the next day? What are some projects that I have my hand on that I need to make happen? What do I need to make happen tomorrow? What do I need to get up and go do? So that's kind of my day. It's kind of our opening scrum from 10:30, and then from that 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. is just kind of all the rest mashed in. And then kind of taking that reprieve at the end of the day to just kind of reflect back on, okay, here's what I did, here's what I need to do, and here's how I need to move forward.
Love it. And there's a lot to unpack there. So we'll dive into a few different components of that. But the first thing I want to discuss is, how do you stay up to date with everything? Because especially in esports, there's a lot going on that happens on a day-to-day basis, whether it be matches, whether it be just announcements, and just other relevant topics. do you have a certain approach for staying on top of everything without losing your sanity, or like what do you kind of
Yeah.
what do you kind of do there to make sure you're in the know with everything that you need to know to make sure your content's still relevant for your fans?
TweetDeck is your friend.
Yeah,
It's like no, but seriously, it's just when you do this on a day-to-day basis enough, it really becomes second nature, because as a social media manager, you are the pulse of what is happening in your little community and what is happening in the community at large and how you impact it. So like take Valorant, for example. Sentinels Valorant team continues to win, continues to do well. And then
yeah,
I have to have my finger on the pulse of how our fans feel about that. So we're feeling like we're on top of the world because we, keep on winning, right? But then you get to what happened at First Strike in December, and then you have obviously one of our players had a tragedy happen in their family a week before, not even before the tournament, and then you have to quickly pivot your feelings. You have to quickly pivot
yeah,
your direction on how you thought the event was going to go to a new place where you have to lead the fans into thinking a certain way, for lack of a better term. So it's kind of twofold, right? So like, how do you not lose your sanity but keep up with things that are happening? You have to have that kind of pulse on the community for how they feel on a day-to-day basis, while
yeah,
also taking in the latest news and rumors and all that. But then you have to really think creatively sometimes outside the box of, okay, how do I lead people into the right direction? How do we create this narrative that fans are going to appreciate? So it is a twofold component. I hope I answered your question. I think on the collection side of things, like news and other noteworthy things, man, I take at least 30 minutes at the beginning of each day. That's kind of baked into my schedule. Sometimes even before our scrum, of just looking up everything that I feel like I need to know. Hey, what's happening in the Valorant community today? Let's go look over some Reddits. Okay, what's happening in the Fortnite community? Let's go take a gander over there, and kind of just using Reddit and different social media platforms to kind of just do some research on my own. I kind of don't have a perfect science on it. I think some
yeah,
people might, but I kind of just like the open-ended, like, hey, let's just kind of browse around and let's see what kind of catches the eye. And that's another thing that journalism teaches you. And I hate to go back to it all the time, but like journalism teaches you news value. So what's
yeah,
newsworthy? What's happening that you want to write a story about? What's happening in the Valorant community that I want to jump in with the Sentinels account and be like, here we are, we're Sentinels, right? Now, what do I want to avoid? What do I want to, I'll give it a like and I'll move on. I want to be big and bold here, and I want to, we're just going to avoid that for today. So that journalism experience really kind of taught me kind of the news value on a day-to-day basis of what the community thinks is important. And so that's kind of my process on things.
Awesome. And one thing I do want to touch on, like we discussed off air, we're not going to dive too deep into it, but obviously it's been an interesting week, to say the least, in esports Twitter, and it's been characterized by quite a few brands taking some risks that probably weren't the best idea. So what is your process for kind of rationalizing hopping in on a trending topic? So like, should we make this post? Should we hop in on this meme, or should we just kind of stay on the sideline? So I think it's a really important concept for especially up and coming social media managers to understand, because sure, a meme might get impressions, it might get likes, but how does that affect your brand sentiment? How does that make your brand look overall? So what's your mindset around that?
I think your last points there, your last couple of sentences are really important here. So, can we post this for some cheap likes and impressions and it's a banger? Sure. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, if that hurts your brand in the long run and you have people in your community that looked up upon it and frowned, like, you lost. Like, you might have won that day and you can feel good about yourself, but can you? And so risk management really comes down to having a team around you that can hear out ideas that are a little fringy. And I have those thoughts. Like, I get those ideas that I pitch to, I have a couple of coworkers that are a part of our 3-person social team that are, marketing managers. And, I'll pitch it to them and say, hey, does this feel right to you? Like, is this okay? And, 70 to 80% of the time, it's like, oh yeah, that's funny. That's cool. Like, yeah, I like that. And then there is 20 to 30% of the time, and that's okay that it's that much, because if you have a lot of ideas that are a little out there, sometimes they work. A lot of times they can work, but sometimes they miss. And so, there are times where I've been told, you need to pull back on that. Like, that's a yikes. And I'm like, damn, I didn't look at it like that. But like, you're right. I probably shouldn't post that. I'll give an example of my one time. I think my worst example of this that actually made it to the timeline is it was a Valorant match. It was about 3 or 4 months ago. And it was TSM versus, I don't even know who. I think it was Cloud9, but it could have been anybody. Okay. I don't really remember at this point. But it was a match that didn't even involve us. We weren't playing that day. We had already moved on. I think it was like quarterfinals or semifinals or whatever, and TSM lost. And so, and this was back at the time where the conversation in the Valorant community was like, who's the top team, Sentinels or TSM, right? And it was, in the mentions and whatever. So I took the moment to revel in another team's defeat and was like, oh, so people want to come at me. Or I put something along the lines of like, so people are really wondering if TSM's number one, with a laughing emoji. Like, looking back on it, like that post was like not the best, because what it ended up doing is it made a lot of people think, oh, wow, like that's kind of like arrogant, or like that's kind of like not the right thing to say, especially while you are not even participating in that match. Like some of the pro player community like looked upon it and was like, that's a yikes, like you weren't even playing. And I didn't even think of it like that. I just looked at it from a brand perspective of, okay, hey, they lost and people are thinking that it's a close competition right now, which it totally was. But like, you have to kind of revel in that a little bit, I figured. And so I went with it. I swung for the fences, and it got a decent reception, but it also struck out with a lot of people. And I learned from it. I learned that looking back on that, I needed to go about that another way. And one of the ways that we kind of fix that is, if we're not participating in that match, like, it's probably, unless something is referenced about us, it is probably better to sit that conversation out. And so, it's one of those deals where, you have to learn, and everybody in this industry is still learning, whether they like to admit it or not. Like, there is nobody in this industry that is at the top of their game to where they're not learning from somebody else. Like, everybody is for lack of a better term, is taking ideas from one another, stealing ideas from one another, but that's okay. It's part of the growth process for all of us, right? So like, there are ideas and things that I've seen from other accounts, and I'm like, okay, how can I make this relatable for Sentinels fans? And then vice versa. I've seen other teams take stuff that we're creating, and it feels good because it makes you think, hey, like, there are other people out there that are appreciating what we're doing, to where they turned it and made it into something that was impactful and beneficial for their fan base. So, it's all a learning process. There is probably not a single social media manager in esports that is like over the age of 35. So like, think about that, right? Like, think about how young this industry is. Like, you're bound to make mistakes because you don't have the experience of traditional sports SMMs that have been around the game for 7 to 8 to 9 years, and they're entering into their 40s. Like they've been seasoned very well, to where a lot of us are, 22, 25, 23, year old, young adults that are still learning what it's like, and how to make mistakes and then how to correct them moving forward.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think the biggest takeaway there is just understanding second order consequences. Like, sure, it might get 1,000 likes. Sure, it might get some retweets. But what are the other consequences going to be? How is it going to make your brand appear? So I think those are all really important points. Now, something you mentioned was like you didn't want the brand to come off arrogant or overly confident. But I think something you guys have done pretty well is adopting a pretty confident brand voice. So you look at most of your tweets, that's the first word that comes to mind when I was looking at it, doing some research ahead of this interview.
Cocky.
Which is like overall, sure, you can use cocky. But yeah, that sort of brand voice. So how did that come about, and like what was the thought process behind adopting that brand voice versus something else? As you know, there's a million different ways you can take it.
It happened very organically, and I'm very proud of that. It's not, I feel it's not forced. What I envisioned with our brand voice was one of champions, especially related to our past, like with Bugga winning the Fortnite World Cup Championship, and then once our Valorant team took off, it was kind of a crossroads for us, right? Like you could go about it and just be like, we win, here we are, we won again, great. Like we were winning tournament after tournament. We were finishing in the top 3, top 2. If we weren't winning grand finals, we were still appearing in grand finals, and it was a super close match, And so our team was just firing on all cylinders, and it was like such an opportune moment as this becomes one of our predominant teams that we showcase on a day-to-day basis. Okay, we need to make a statement here. We need to go loud, and we need to make it to where we're remembered. We need to make it so people know who we are. Because think about it, we thought about it this way. Teams like TSM and Cloud9, they've been around for years longer than we have been. We were founded 2016, 2017, but Sentinels was not, for lack of a better term, Sentinels was not the number one priority until about probably 2019 into 2020, because it's public, it's out there. We were operating, the Gladiators and the Overwatch League, and we had other priorities to where Sentinels as a brand was not being, I feel like looking back on it, 100% fully focused on until roughly 2019 into 2020. So when you look at that lifespan, like that's a 2-year lifespan, right? So we've had 2 years to really impress upon a fan base of esports fans and esports viewers, right? Well, TSM's had 10 or 15, however long. It's way longer than what we have had. Which is totally, it's not their fault and it's not our fault, but like those are the facts, right? So like TSM has this long tradition. Cloud9 has a long-standing tradition, and they're both great organizations. And so when you are a team that's kind of the new kid on the block, like you have to stand out a little bit, because if you don't, you're going to get you're forgettable. And so we got to this point where we were just really feeling good about what our team was doing, and we were really feeling good about how we can make an impact in this scene. And what we kind of came to the conclusion of is embracing the villain role a little bit. Like we have that kind of, we're not going to sit there when we lose and we're going to be like, oh shucks, GG's, we lost 0-2. Like that's lame. Like nobody wants to see that. Like imagine a a crowded room of 500,000 people, which like some of these organizations have 500,000 followers, right? And then they post their loss graphic and 82 people liked it. So imagine a room of 500,000 people and 82 stood up and went, great job. That's terrible. That's awful. And so, we got to this point of like, if we're going to go down, like we're going to go down swinging. And so we come up with other alternatives to, loss graphics. I've been here for 1 year coming up, and I've never posted a loss graphic. And I say that with a smile on my face, because that is serving the fan base better than a loss graphic would. We can come up with creative ways to talk about ourselves in a loss. And if we can't, then like that's on us and we screwed up and we did a bad job. But like the traditional ways of doing it, we just don't find as interesting as some other organizations, which is totally fair. And that voice really has just come over time organically. And I feel like it's been embraced by our fans. I see a lot of people, especially like on the Valorant competitive Reddit, that are like, Sentinels fans are annoying. And like, yeah, we like Sentinels fans like kind of are annoying to a degree because like they're confident in their team. But like that's the love of it all. Like that's the love of the organization and the team competing under it. Like that's the love of all 5 of the guys that are, giving their heart out on when they like load up into the server. Like that's what it's all about. And like, if you didn't have those organic moments, if you didn't have like that organic feeling of a fan base, then like, do you have a fan base? 1, and 2, what does your esports community look like? Like if Valorant didn't have people that were as passionate about their esport as TSM Myth on stream, like where would it be? It would be nowhere. Like this passion is what this esport needs to survive, and what it's actually done really well in the year that it's existed. And other esports the same way. Like Rocket League is a really good example of like passionate ass fans that are just rally crying at a triple overtime, or an overtime that goes, 7 minutes, right? And so it's just one of those deals that developing a brand voice happens over time, and it has to happen organically to really catch on. And I feel like that's something that we've done here, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And my next question would be, how do you see evolving over time? Because naturally teams have highs, teams have lows. God forbid, sometime in the hopefully very far future, maybe you guys go through a rut or the wins aren't coming as often as they are now. How do you see that impacting it? Has that crossed your guys' mind as far as the potential implication of adopting that sort of brand voice?
Yeah, 100%. Like you can't win every time, right? Like that's unrealistic. You can't go 100-0 in 100 matches played. You're going to lose eventually, and when you get into a losing streak, that's really unfortunate. But at the same time, you can use it as an opportunity to look forward to the future, and have language embedded into what you're trying to do as a team, that makes people want to keep coming back. That's the number one thing. You don't want to lose people. You want them to keep coming back. So even win or loss, whatever it is, you have to come up with a creative narrative to make people want more of your content. And so that's really the number one thing, is just making narratives that people can hold on to, win or loss. Now, the brand voice is very bold and brash. And I totally 100% realize that part of it. But also, I think bold and brash can translate into, hey, even though we're in a cycle where we're not winning as much as we were, here's what we have to look forward to, and here's what we have moving forward. I definitely think it's achievable. It is not easy, but I think it's one of those things that again, like if you're going to stand out, especially as a new kid on the block, you have to be memorable. So it is kind of one of those calculated risks that we hope pays off in the long run.
Awesome. Now, kind of shifting gears into like the individual post side of things, like from 30,000 foot view down to like an individual tweet. What do you think makes a tweet, or just any post, a TikTok, a tweet, an IG post, whatever? What do you think makes it shareable? Like what are some common characteristics that you've observed across posts that have performed well for you guys that you might be able to share with the audience here?
I think you have to look at it from a personal level, and you have to scroll on Twitter yourself, not through our Twitter, through just your feed, and go, why did I like that? Why did I hit that red little heart on the screen? Why did I hit the green little arrows that go like this? Why did I share this to my friend group that has 20 members in it? Why did I reply? Why did I reply all on the tweet when there's 10 people mentioned? Like you have to go through and really like digest it personally to understand how it works for the rest of your audience. And so when you have your audience, you have to also think your audience is going to have similar tendencies than you. That might be not true, in which case then you would have to kind of analyze, okay, what is our audience doing? But really at the core, it starts with within yourself analyzing why you like something, why you did what you did. And then from there, okay, now would my audience do it the same way? Would they? Yes or no? If yes, okay, so now I can go down that rabbit hole and that tree branches off into, okay, well, how can I replicate this into something that our fans would enjoy? If it's no, then you have to really analyze your community. What do they want? What do they feel? And go from there. So I think from an individual post level, it really comes down to here's how I can make a post that an audience looks at on their feed and has to react a certain way. They have to, they give it a laugh, or they give it a comment, or they give it a retweet, or they share it with their friends, or they're resharing it with a duet, or whatever it may be. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the audience and make them react. And that's really building narratives. How do you make a narrative build the narrative up to make people react? And that really, it's not easy. It's difficult, but it comes with like having a great team and kind of doing it on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. Now, I'm curious if you remember any specific examples of when you were scrolling through the timeline and you saw one of those posts. Like, what's one of those triggers that made you like a post? Obviously, we can't go through every single one. There's no like secret code to virality, but what's an example that you can remember when you saw a post? You're like, damn, why did I like that? And something kind of clicked for you.
That's a good question. I feel like I'll use an account as an example. I'll use an account as an example. It's like the dog rates and like thoughts of dog accounts are like literally Twitter genius, right? Because it's really relatable content, and I'm a dog lover, and I'm going to scroll through that Twitter feed, right? And I'm going to see, oh, okay, like this is the content I'm going to get. I already know ahead of time because the account is literally called Dog Rates. So I know that I'm going to get rating dogs. I'm going to get fun content, pictures of dogs, and I'm going to get funny commentary about the dogs. I'm going to like that content because it's catered to somebody like me who likes animals. So like, I think using examples like that really help a brand, because that's like a community organic created account. Now, from a brand perspective, how can I kind of spin that off but use it in my own community to where fans are going to know what they're about to get. They're going to get it engaging. They're going to get it in an engaging fashion, and it's going to happen repetitively on a daily basis or a near daily basis. So that's kind of like the thought process behind it, is like, okay, what you're going to get. What you're going to get is going to be quality. That you're going to be engaging with it, and building that out over time, whether it be Valorant and Valorant content, whether it be Fortnite and Fortnite content, whatever it may be, with whatever teams that are competing in the organization that you work with, you have to build that out on a daily basis, and that's kind of like what goes into how people like things. Is they're a part of a community, and then they have to know what to expect within that community, and once they get it, and they get it in a quality and engaging way, your likelihood of having a high engagement rate is pretty likely.
Awesome. And something you mentioned there too was the fact that you guys are serving content to a Fortnite audience, to a Valorant audience, to a Halo audience as well. How does that dynamic play into things? Because you guys haven't segmented your accounts based on esport yet, or have you?
We haven't segmented our accounts, but we segment our content pretty well. So like what we noticed within our community was that Valorant content performed really well on YouTube and Twitter, and then our Fortnite community is really high on IG. So like if you go to our IG account and like juxtapose it with like our TikTok or our YouTube or our Twitter, you'll find that our IG account is very skewed Fortnite, and you're like, all the other accounts are skewed kind of more Valorant and less emphasis on Fortnite. That's on purpose, because we noticed that our ages and our age demographics on all of our different platforms, IG skewed the youngest, and it interestingly enough, skewed the youngest, and it also skewed the most in terms of interest for Fortnite. So we're gonna serve that content to them. So like just today we posted a highlight package of Bugga's recent streams, and that went on YouTube, but it went on IG, but you never saw it on Twitter or TikTok, because that audience is not going to really respond and reply to those. So so that's kind of how that works out. So account segmenting, I'm not very high on, but I understand why like some big dogs do it, and it's totally fair. But really, I think what people need to be looking into is content segmenting, and looking at what each platform you're bringing to the table to each platform, and is your audience engaging with it on each platform?
Yeah, that's super interesting that Instagram skewed the youngest, because usually, I mean, when you hear talks about different platforms, it's always, TikTok is going to be the one that skews the youngest. So that's super interesting, and it highlights the importance of looking at your analytics, looking at the audience demographics on each platform, because you might assume some things that aren't actually the case. And I like that you mentioned the content segmenting, because I mean, in my research ahead of the interview, I didn't look at IG a whole lot. I was mainly focused on Twitter and TikTok, and I did notice that Twitter is mostly Valorant, and now that makes a lot more sense as to why that's the case. Now, kind of getting into TikTok though, because you guys just broke 100,000 subscribers, I think, which another congratulations, y'all are just killing it.
Thank you.
What has been your approach to building a following on that platform, just from a general view, and then we'll kind of dive into specifics in a few seconds here?
I have such a great team behind me, because I have a video editor that is very dedicated to helping me out on a day-to-day basis, build out content. And he helps me out so much. We really just take a look at, like what is happening on TikTok, right? And then how can we transfer that? How is that transferable to like what we're doing at Sentinels? 5 months ago, a little over 5 months now, we took a look at TikTok, and we were inactive on it. We weren't posting on it, and we were missing a gold mine opportunity. And my only regret with TikTok is I wish I started sooner. I wish I started uploading content to it and really believing in it sooner. Obviously, it had political pitfalls with it at the time, with its people weren't sure if it was going to survive, and that whole aspect of things, which kind of was a turnoff to want to put energy behind it. But then once that cleared up, thankfully, it's given us yet another platform to really succeed on and to really feel good about. And on a day-to-day basis, we're constantly looking for relevant content for our fans, and constantly looking for, like, what are the latest memes? Like, what are the latest trends? What are the latest audio pieces, snippets that people are using? And how can we use them for Sentinels and make them funny and engaging for our audience? And then also, how can we repurpose old content on a platform that these people might have never seen that old content, even if it's 1 or 2 years old? Like, one of our examples of that is like we have a long-standing kind of like sketch comedy deal with This Is Sentinels, and it's very similar to This Is Sports Center from the old ESPN commercials in like the early 2000s. Like, just like, it's a bunch of esports pros being goofballs, and we have scripts for them, and we have like different scenarios of them going throughout random parts of life, right? So we've actually repurposed those on TikTok, and those are like some of our best performing TikToks that we
those are repurposed.
Those were filmed 6 to 12 months ago. Oh yeah, those are
sick. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about those specific videos. I noticed that those performed really well on average, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they're filming these entire sketch videos just for TikTok. Like, I've never seen that before. That makes so much more sense. And I like that even more because you guys repurposed it, and it's killing it.
Yeah, like that audience had never probably heard of us before, because think about the sheer size of TikTok, right? So like some of our audience on TikTok, before they followed us on TikTok or watched one of our videos, they might have never heard who the heck we were. And so now they've seen us, and they've seen this funny, relevant sketch comedy about, somebody stealing the chug jug in the office or whatever the stupid skit might be, right? But it was funny, and it gave people an engaging 45-second piece of content, and it made you want to come back for more. And so that's kind of what we've built with our TikTok audience is obviously repetition is key, posting consistently is key, at the same time is key. But also just finding those relevant moments within the brand, relevant topics that you want to continue to talk about.
Definitely. What's your guys' current cadence?
Our current cadence is typically Tuesday through Saturday, so 5 times a week, around 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. Let's see. There was a question on the tip of my tongue, and why do you think the sketch videos performed well? Like, independent of them being repurposed or not, why do you think they continue to do above average on the platform?
I think because two reasons. One, it's IRL content, but it's gaming. So like gaming and IRL content is like, typically when you see gaming content on TikTok, it's like gameplay clips or stream highlights or like whatever it may be, funny moments on stream or whatever. But this was actually, esports pros in real life. Like, there's a camera in front of their face. And so that is kind of like, you're not used to seeing that if you're the audience. So you're like, oh, what's this? Okay, I'm going to keep watching. And then typically those skits set themselves up in the first 5 seconds. So like in the first 5 seconds, I have text on screen that tells you what the skit's going to be about. And then you have some sort of highlight, flashbulb moment of like, the printer is jammed and the printer goes off, or you hear a buzzing noise and, it's somebody walking into the room, or it's like these flashbulb moments that happen in the first 5 seconds that catch your attention. You go, oh, what's this? Okay, I won't scroll anymore. So I think those are the 2 main reasons. The third reason is just wherever the TikTok algorithm wants to take you, right? Like, where does the TikTok algorithm want to take you? Sometimes, who knows, but it takes you on, in this case, it takes you on a successful ride to a really positive post for us.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm still trying to figure out the TikTok algorithm myself. And just with like
Nobody
my personal
knows.
content. Yeah, I'll post for a while, like consistent, I kind of fall off. I'll kind of get back onto it. Just the thought of putting so much time and effort into like a 15-second video is
Yeah.
just it's something that I'm still wrestling with, but I know I need to get on the platform. And if anyone's watching the running an esports org account or just a general brand account, I think it's pretty obvious what the benefits are of being on the platform. Like the reach is crazy. Now,
Yeah.
in terms of the reach though, have you seen like transfer from the platform to, let's say, Twitter, or from TikTok to YouTube, or from TikTok to IG? Do you see a lot of conversion there from getting new fans off the platform?
That's a really good question. And I think we're still in the early stages of
Yeah.
figuring out where our TikTok audience is going for us. So, like, are they transferring to Twitter and are they transferring to IG? I wish I had the answer for you, but I think it's too preliminary right now
Okay.
to say with 100% confidence, because we've only been posting on the platform for like 5 months, right? So I think if
Yeah.
I had a little bit more sample size, I'd be able to give you a concrete answer. My best guess is I do think there is a little bit of transition. I do think there are people that are following us on TikTok for the first time that have never heard of us, and then they're going to go check out what content we have on our Twitter, or they're going to go check out what content we have on our Instagram, or what content we have on our YouTube. So I definitely think there is an overlap there. The one thing about TikTok that's super interesting for us, every other platform, the United States is roughly about 90% of our audience, which is a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
For TikTok, it is 63%. That's significantly lower. We have a very large worldwide international viewership base with TikTok, because of the IRL content, and then because of some of our other content with Bugga that we've done that's been very successful. So what I'm noticing with TikTok is when we post something on Twitter that really blows up, we're noticing more of our international community latching on there. And so I do think there is I think there's a bridge that's being met. I do think there is some people that are transferring over, and it's especially an international market, which is really exciting for us as a brand.
Yeah.
Because that's something that really signifies that you're taking things to the next level, is you're not just staying within a local, you're not just staying within your where your company is based out of, where your organization is based out of. You're branching out into different continents and different countries, and so that's really exciting for us. I really hope that trend continues, and it's kind of my job to make that trend continue. So I'm looking forward to like, how can we take this to the next step, and how can we kind of make Sentinels become more of an international branded name?
Love it, man. And then as we're coming up on the hour mark here, what are some things you're excited about in esports in general, or in social media, or a combination of both? Like, what are some things you're hyped about going into the rest of 2021?
I look at social media right now, and I see it as like twofold. Obviously, you have some concerns with some of the risk management we talked about earlier, and we have some of that going on. But I look at social media as just a platform, as a tool to continue to keep engaging with our audiences. In terms of like new features that are coming out that I'm excited about, I'm really excited to see how this newsletter works out with Twitter, because I am a writer at heart, and so I cannot pronounce the name of the newsletter that they're the newsletter company that they partnered with. It's like Review, I think.
I think it's just Review.
Review. Okay. So I'm really excited about that, and see how can we kind of implement that into our social strategy. I'm a writer at heart, so maybe I'm a little I'm a little rowdy for like 25 people that are going to ultimately end up using it, right? But like, maybe
I'm with you.
Maybe there are more people that want that kind of newsletter content. in their lives. And so I'm hoping that that's the case. I'm really excited to see where our TikTok goes for the future. I mean, if we hit 100K in 5.5 months, I think we can hit 250K in the next 6 months. That's like what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like that's what my goals are. That's what my aspirations are for that platform. So I'm really excited to see where that takes us. And of course, just on the day to day, like I'm so appreciative of like the opportunity I have here. I feel like I make a difference each and every day. I go to battle. I go to battle with like the best team in the game. I mean, like I said before we got on here, we are a team of 10 people in our marketing department. That's video editors, graphic designers, marketers, social media, and then our team lead, our graphic media team lead that kind of puts it all together. 10 people. That's it. We are a small but mighty group, and comparative to other teams. And I always say like I'm so proud of us, like and how far we've come just in this short time span that I've been in here, and as an organization, the short time span that we've had together.
No, I love that, and I'll keep repeating. You guys are killing it. Like, and I don't say that just because you're here on the show. Like, you guys are doing some really, really good work, and I'm excited to see you guys do. And like you said with TikTok, I think it's kind of like a sort of exponential growth thing. Like once you have that foundation, it gets. I don't want to say easier because it's always challenges that come up, but it's a lot more likely to keep building that audience once you have that foundation, which you guys have done a great job building. And I would love to see more writing kind of hit mainstream with esports. Yeah. I mean, there are esports journalists and there are plenty of people doing great work out there, but I tend to enjoy writing as well. So I would love for there to be a platform where an article could get just as much traction as a YouTube video. Because if I could, I would just spend all my time writing versus editing. I find the process a hell of a lot more enjoyable. So I am with you there. But now that we're going to wrap up here, though, what's like the biggest takeaway you want someone watching this interview to walk away from it with?
Ooh, man,
it's a tough question. I know.
I mean, they just had to listen to me ramble for an hour, so I hope they gained something from it, if anything. No, I think number one thing that I had to tell myself, and the number one thing that I want people to understand working in esports is a lot can change very quickly, both professionally and then in the industry as a whole. Like 2 or 3 years ago, like 2 to 3 years is not a long time for an industry time span, but think about how far esports has come in 2 to 3 years. Like it's monumental. And then think about the 2 to 3 years before that. So like 2015 to 2018, and then 2018 to 2021. Like those are 3 or 2 wildly different time spans in the esports ecosystems, like life. And so I know that can continue. And I know that we're going to kind of continue to keep growing and keep advancing. And then personally, looking at things and going, okay, wow, like I have changed like a lot in this past year. Like I'm totally open to admitting, like last year as a graduate assistant, I was, not in the same financial standpoint that I am today. I was not in the same place in any form or fashion. So to people out there that are just like looking to get their foot in the door, like, please know that like, it's not going to happen overnight, but you'll be surprised at how fast, if you keep working hard and you keep making an impact, you'll be surprised at how fast things change and where you can go.
100%, man. I love that. And the last question, arguably the most important of the entire show.
Okay.
I ask this to every guest, so returning viewers might be tired of this, but do you drink coffee? And if so, how do you drink your coffee?
I love my coffee. I only drink iced coffee. I have a cup of cold brew every morning. Occasionally I'll get some evening coffee, but that's if I'm either really tired or I just want a cup of coffee for the taste. But typically it's one cup of cold brew every morning with some caramel and cream.
Love it. I'm a cold brew person myself. I think you're the first person who's actively said cold brew. So I appreciate that. That makes me like you even more,
Let's
as if
go.
this conversation wasn't good enough already. But man, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know I learned a ton in this conversation. I'm sure everyone watching or listening in did as well. Where's the best place to keep up with everything that you have going on currently?
Personally, at by Zach Lange on Twitter. That's really the only platform that I stick to esports talk on. A lot of my other platforms, like Instagram and stuff, are just personal
Okay.
musings. Go check my Twitter out, and I'm happy to connect with anybody and everybody. And then my LinkedIn as well. You could probably find me on there just by searching my name. And follow Sentinels across Twitter and all of our other social media platforms. No, but seriously, I think what we're putting out, and I think that what we're doing, is very solid quality content. And I'm really proud of our team and where we can keep on growing and going from here.
Love it. Well, thank you again for coming on. And for everyone else who is watching or listening all the way till the end, really appreciate you guys. And if you're new around here, you enjoy this type of content, social media, marketing, and esports, I would really appreciate you dropping a like on the video down below if you're on YouTube, as well as subscribing. And if you're on audio platforms, a 5-star rating and review is always helpful, but only if you enjoyed it, of course. And with that, I will see you guys in the next episode.